I mean, okay, now it's being live streamed. All right, good. Technology. I wish I could just press a button. It says you can just press a button, but you can't just press a button. All right, now we're streaming. So this morning, we are, or this evening for you, South Africa. We're in South Africa. I used to live in Francistown for a little while in southern Africa. Now, I've been to South Africa, well, obviously to get there a few times. We used to drive there every month. Was hours. I don't know, 7 hour. I don't know. It was a long time ago when I was young, and Anyway, so I know. Oh yes, Johannesburg. Yes, been there many a time, and it has its beauty, it has its love and its fear, right? Like every place. But there is something about. I said that being in Botswana anyway, which is not exactly the same place, but it was so. I felt so safe there. I felt. It's a bizarre thing to say in some respects, being in a different country, and I didn't know anybody, and all the different things you had to consider, and the language, and the Afrikaan, Portuguese, and Tetsuan languages. I was trying to learn the languages, and I couldn't do Afrikaan. I can't do the rolling of the R's, right? It's really my Australian accent. No one understood me. But I started to learn Tetsuan, which is the Botswanan language. And I had, I mixed with or moved with all the different groups, which apparently is very, very unusual, but this is how you learn about people and culture, and it was beautiful. Anyway, so welcome. It's lovely to join tonight. First time joining. Yes, South Africa is not too safe, but it's still beautiful. It is beautiful, and the people are lovely, and I guess you just have to be aware. It's about being I guess conscious, right? About being conscious, because anywhere. Yeah, Botswana is very peaceful. It's a whole different political setup too in the history. So I've got a background in anthropology. One of the systems. So this is not what the live's about, people, but we will get to it in a moment. But I just going on the energy that one of my first big papers or research that I did was around South Africa and the history of South Africa, and looking at it in relation to Australia's laws, and where a lot of the political setup came from, and a lot of it came from Australia. So it's really, and not a lot of people know that, like the card system, all of that. But anyway, not to go into politics, but I was very much into politics, and why we do what we do, which is why we're here. The human whisperer. I'm the spirit whisperer. I'm the human whisperer. I like to know what makes people do what they do. Why do we do what we do? How are we the way we are? Why are we the way we are? And why does our behavior, what are the reasons, or when we're conscious about our behavior, what that shows us. I'm fascinated since I was a little girl. so young, I have asked these questions, and I continue to ask them and investigate and research and look at that. And the reason that I looked at many cultures, many religions, many ways of knowing, was to answer this question for myself. And I don't know, well, if you're new here, you won't know that. So I'm mystically inclined. I'm a mystic, which purely just means that mystics look and see beyond the surface of something. And so when there's ancient texts or cultural even ways of being, what's underneath that, what's behind it, what's around it, all aspects of it, and the mystically inclined are very much about paradox. So when you see one thing, you see all of it. You're right. There's no, okay, I'm going to name that, and then straight away it flips, which is a good segue into what I'm going to connect with. So welcome. I'm glad that you're here, and if you've got any questions, don't hesitate. So who is on? So hey to those coming on to Zoom, and let me just check the restream. So I had planned to talk about or go into a couple of things. I was going to take you through a protocol, but I've got a feeling I have shared this one recently. And so Rebel, do you remember, did I go through the triple axis, AXIS, the points on the head? Or I might have prepared to go into that and got talking about something else. Anyway, so I thought that I would touch on that, and maybe we'll do it differently. Another thing about me is I never teach the same thing exactly the same twice, because you know, I go with, you know, the energy of who's here and what's needed. But I was feeling into it this morning, and I nearly forgot to show up this morning. So I've been doing interviews for the next Spirit Whisperer series, which is coming up very soon. So if you're new, stay tuned, right? You know, click the little like button so that you get notified when that starts. It actually starts December 1st, but the access to it will be before that, obviously. And it's going to be a little different than in the past, of course. But there will be a creative process, which is around, so creativity for me, actually while I was in Africa, I was doing my master's, and I was looking at, I was researching a lot of things. I had a couple of research projects going, but one of them was to do with finding another language that wasn't a spoken language as such. Right, because in psychology we have the house tree person test. I don't know if you've heard of it. You probably haven't, but it fascinated me because I've always had a fascination with trees, and would draw trees all the time, and I'd paint these trees, and all of my family have some sort of painting or creative. I've even, you know, etched into glass and bottles and whatnot, these trees and family trees. But it sort of goes back to what I was saying, you know, I'm investigating, why are we the way we are, right? The roots, the trunk, the leaves, the fruit, the seed. It's the whole process. And it got me into, so just to remind you, this is not why we're here. I'm just educating a little bit before we go into these emotional points and how to navigate them for yourself. So some energy first aid, let's call it, things that you could do to assist yourself in your well-being and your vitality and whatnot. But I went and looked at the intelligence of trees, and this was well before that was really talked about, and then looked at the similarities and the differences between humans and plants, right, and going into emotions and the nurture nature debate. So what assists the human to thrive? Some say it's nurture, some say it's nature. So some say it's like how, you know, the hugging and attention from primary caregivers, and some say it's your environment, some say it's both, right? It is both, in my opinion, and my very educated opinion. That, you know, and then we can go beyond that and, you know, bring in something even more profound, but we'll just stay a little focused today. Although I did want to mention the number 5 today, but we'll see if we get there, because 5 relates to what I just brought up. And it's actually the 15th today, but that has nothing to do with it. The reason I was bringing up 5 is because the program, the PSI program, which is a 9-month program, they're in their 5th month. And so I was sharing 5 and the significance of 5 in their journey. So I'll touch on that for you so that you understand. But the reason I'm saying it is because nurture and nature is both internal and external. And so the 5, so stay with me, bear with me, Rebel, I can see you. How you doing? So the number 5, you know, sometimes I can go off, but I'll bring it back in. It's okay. And if it sort of sounds like mumbo jumbo, just receive it. Receive what you feel. It might drop in later or tomorrow or next week, right? Number 5 is a halfway point, right, between 10. So in the what's called Karam Kriya, which is a yogic numerology, an amazing way of understanding the world. It's just one of the ways that I look at the world. It is a number of threshold. So the significance of why I was teaching about it yesterday, I was just touching on it. We didn't go very deep. We were doing painting, actually. So, but we're painting and connecting in. So just bear with me, because I started off telling you about Spirit Whisperer, the series. Then I started saying there's something new coming into that. It has to do with creativity, okay, and how we use creativity in processing and integrating information so that we could use the top, bottom, left, right, front, back of our brain. It's a full process. So the creativity that I do is not like painting pretty pictures, although sometimes they are, you know, they're pretty, or they're, you know, powerful, or they're, you know, but they are definitely alive, right? So so stay tuned, because as we go through that process, you will be doing, if you want to, you don't have to, it's optional. In these series, I always have some sort of way to integrate the information, because otherwise I'm just, you know, it's just people talking at you and, you know, teaching you stuff. And if you don't do it, then, you know, I mean, you get the transmission to some degree. But so I'm always thinking about ways of how to assist. Like, I could talk to the cows come home, as you know. Right? And what good is that going to be to you if you can't receive it, you can't integrate it, it's not practical in your everyday life, right? So this is why I bring in different ways of knowing. So sometimes I'll be talking, or I'll be sharing points or energetics. Sometimes I'll be teaching you more about, or sharing with you more sort of spiritual, or even different ways of knowing from ancient texts, and sometimes they could be connected to different religions, right? So yesterday, for instance, I was teaching about 5, and I'm not religious, but 5, when you a mystic, you're looking at all the information that is there to educate and show the way, the pathways. And all of the ancient texts have significant stories that show you something about yourself and the way, or a way. So I was saying that 5 is this bridge, this threshold, right? It's this communication link. And I was reluctant to bring this piece in, but I thought it doesn't matter if it brings up something in you, then it's something to look at and go, okay, do you have a fear around that? Because I'm not teaching you or asking you or anything really. So when Jesus died on the cross, whether you believe it or not, it's an indicator of the 5, the 4 to the 5. So the cross is the 4, and with the 5 wounds. Now the 5 is the transition, remember. So that story, whether you believe it or not, the story is showing us the next, the move from human, right, to outside of human. Like, what is that? Spirit. Do you understand? So the 4, so just bear with me, I'm going to get off the numbers in a minute, but if you're like, these numbers show you your whole path from before you're incarnated, dropping into the incarnation, which is number 1, the soul body, 2, negative mind, 3, positive mind, 4, neutral mind, 5, physical body, right? And then from there, we start to move out of the physical body. You see? So what does that mean? It's about paradox and that crossover. I just realized my glasses on Instagram, I've got a filter on. My glasses on Instagram are changing color. That's cool. The crossover from the infinity sign. So let me show you, because there are some new people here. Where is my infinity? Okay, I don't have it right here. That's okay. You know the infinity, the sideways 8, or the figure 8 on its side. The cross of that. So I'm always showing this infinity. I've probably got it in my little toolkit I have. So this is my little energy toolkit, right? I've got my little spoon. I've got my, right, I'll tell you about that another day, but this is the infinity, or the figure 8. And so we could see it as love and fear, or positive, negative, or masculine, feminine, whatever, polarity. Life here. 5 is the crossover. Okay. Oh, yes. So 5 is the crossover. And I had a question, without going too much into detail, because it's there, you know, what's said in class is, you know, for those students, you know, personal stuff. But I think this is relevant, and you won't know who it was anyway. So there was a question around being in one state and then all of a sudden being in another state, and this sort of almost not it's not that you're not knowing where you are, but it's such a quick shift in consciousness that it can be a little discombobulating. Does that make sense? Is anybody feeling that or felt that? I called it in the day, I don't get it anymore because I've integrated it, but it is a process where we start to, I say, toggle the worlds, different states of consciousness, and we're moving, and it sort of feels like we're in a different space. And you're like going, okay, right? So when you're on the conscious evolution path, now maybe not all of you are, and that's okay. Those that are, you will experience this at some time. You just will. What it is, or one aspect of what it is, because there's other things as well. Nothing's ever concrete in my world, because it's paradox. When it's one, it's the other. When it's the other, it's the other, right? It's So what this student was explaining or saying was the 5. Because when you're in one state, that 5 can just go boom, and you're in the next state. Boom, 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 right? That's why I say there's levels of development, stages of development for the human. So there's human development. I don't separate human development and spiritual development, because we are, on our evolution to Homo luminous, so Homo sapiens, Homo luminous, or Homo spiritus, whatever it's they're real terms. Go, you can look them up. It is the human evolution. However, there's this stage where we can get to this 5, the threshold, the bridge between heaven and earth. And it's a stage where we have the 1 to 4 behind us, so to speak, or there, and the from 5 onwards, it's this centerpiece of our. So when we raise in our consciousness, so some of you have heard me talk about rise to rose, that the stages of development, where when we're in that lower stage, not to go deeply into this, I'm just going to touch on it, then we'll get into some energy and see what you want, what you need. We start off where we can see either love or fear, like we're in contraction or expansion, right? So one of the polarities, and that's what we see, and we're not aware of the other when we're in it. So that's that number 1 stage. The next stage is where we know that when we're in a constriction or something that's painful emotionally or physically or whatever, we know that there's another side, but we can't quite contact it, right? Do you know what I mean? And then the next stage is what I'm talking about, where when you're in one, you're in the other. There's no separation. It's love and fear at the same time. So when you see something that is maybe considered frightening, there's beauty in it at the same time. And when you start to see the world like that to start with, it's really bizarre. And I don't know, some of you may have experienced that. It's very bizarre. And then you just start realizing you're more conscious of it. And then it's just the way it is. It's just integrating it. That's just how we are. So this 5, when you're not quite there, is this flipping, right? And so it can feel really like, it can sort of feel like you're losing your mind, because in a way you are. You're expanding and integrating the multiple minds that you have, right? So 5, the halfway point, the turnaround or the reversal, right? Because it can go right? The cross. So I think that's enough of that. I teach a whole thing about the cross and these crossovers, but that just came up yesterday, so I thought I'd share it. If any of you are having unusual or difficult, or bizarre experiences, and you don't know where to go, message me. You can come to these calls and ask questions. That's all I used to do back in the day, is just answer people's questions about, they think they're going mad and they'll tell me something. It's part of the spiritual development, right? But some people will experience things more profoundly than others. Like, it's just how your energetics are made up, and some are a little bit more mystically inclined or highly sensitive, or whatever. It doesn't make anybody better than anyone else. It's just these different ways of knowing. It's different how you move in the world in a slight way. Like men are slightly different to women, Well, actually, I was thinking about doing a series on this because I think there's actually very different. But you know, you tell a man that I don't think a lot of men get. Anyway, that's another story. So I was thinking maybe I should do a series on, you know, on women, so that women can understand themselves, right? And men can understand the women that they love. Wouldn't that be awesome? I think it would be awesome. Anyway, I mean, even so while I'm talking, just let me know what's going on for you. If you can private message me if it's well, if you're on chat, it doesn't, you know. Anyway, because I was going to go into, you know, as we get older and the miscommunication of that. And I'm finding more and more, especially I've been talking to a lot of women lately around their vulnerabilities and whatnot, and finding the misinformation around the feminine human body or the female human body, right? Whether you identify, whatever you identify, but the misunderstanding of how we work just at the basic level and of our development. And, you know, this could touch on people, but, you know, a lot of doctors, majority were men. It's only in recent times that women started to be able to even, you know, go to university and study and whatnot. I mean, when I saw, I didn't know my grandmother, my dad's mum, was a scientist. I knew she was a mathematician, but it didn't occur to me that she went to university until she passed, and I found through her papers she had a degree, and I was like, oh my goodness, because it wasn't the done thing. And my other grandmother was accepted into the conservatory for music at 16 and wasn't able to go because her father wouldn't allow it. So there's all those sorts of things. That's what I'm talking about. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, who was studying our bodies? Who was telling the world about us as women? You know, I know there's some men that watch too. I love you. Sometimes we've got to have some space to just say, hey, we have needs and very vital needs, and you know, how are we being understood? So things are different now, but there's still a long way to go. And talking to these women, I was noticing even in the energetics. So, for instance, and we touched on this in the past few or the past month around hormones and how when our hormones start to shift and change, our adrenals are under much more stress. So if you've already got adrenal fatigue or are getting tired, and then, you know, you're, say, well, some people go into perimenopause early. So, you know, for 40 onwards sometimes, right? But even if you don't, like, what's happening is that your body is shifting in such a way that the adrenals and your stress response is having to do different type of work. And do you know about that? I mean, did you know about that before I told you this month? There you go. Right. So when I hear people saying they're so tired and they've been to the doctors, and I had this 3 days ago, somebody contacted me and said, can I just ask you, you know, and I'm like, yeah, sure. So I've been to this Chinese herbalist, medical doctor, like all these experts, and no one could find what was going on for her, why she was so tired. And she said, can you you know, find, you know, give me something. Like, she didn't really say exactly what. And as soon as she said it, I heard adrenals. As soon as she said it, I went, adrenals. All right, let me check. But my intuition, like, I have different ways of knowing, but I went, oh, adrenals. And then it went boom, 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 hormones in this particular sequence. It was as simple as that. And I gave her some exercises to do, which is what I teach on these lives anyway. I actually sent her one of the lives from a few weeks ago, the hormone protocol, right? Because that's a stress response one. So those of you, if you go to Rhombus Healing Arts Facebook page, most of the lives are there. I don't know if all of them are on Instagram, but you can have a look. But it's a hormone protocol. But hormones aren't just for women. Without hormones, we don't live. So men have hormones too. Men have stress too. So that protocol can be used for men as well. But why I was teaching it was around the adrenal fatigue, right? Getting tired, getting run down, and how our stress, it's chicken or the egg. It's like seed or the fruit. Did the fruit come first, then the seed, or the seed, right? What came first? Did your adrenal fatigue or your tiredness come and then the stress response kicked in? Most likely not. However, so how we navigate and have a relationship with our nervous system, which next year, so stay tuned, because next year I'll be offering something that is more accessible to more people around more the human whispering rather than the spirit whispering, which is all this stuff like the physiology of it, or the biology of it, without going into too much science. But it'll be the tools around the physical symptoms, what's going on with you physically, right? Because what I've noticed, and I've mentioned this a few times now, but there's new people coming all the time. What I've noticed is that on your journey as a human, whether you want the connection with what I call the beloved, or whatever reason you've shown up here, you are a human being. We are the human species, and we need to be embodied, right? Regardless of whether you want to, go off into the heavens and connect with, the beloved, or the great mother, the great father, whatever that desire is, right? You will only go so far without your body. And if you do, you won't come back to your body, and we call that death. Do you understand? So, this conscious evolution is about being fully embodied and feeling in the body and fully expanded. What? At the same time. You're infinite. It's in the infinity. Do you see? So, I spent half my life being, off with the heavens, and still am, but I'm so embodied. And that's why we say, it is about, awakening and ascension, descension, soul embodiment. Most people want to transcend that I've been around for a while, right? I've done this work for like 30 years. Most people want to escape the physical so it doesn't hurt, it's uncomfortable, or their emotions are, their nervous system's dysregulated, right? There's fear, little or big, doesn't matter. And we want to get out of it. And everything that a human being does is to either move out of what they're feeling to feel something else, right? To transcend it, to even love. Well, if you've ever been fully in love, it can be frightening because it's so much. You feel like you're going to explode. Do you know what I mean? So even that is like, oh, breathe, bring it in, right? Because love, purity of unconditional love is expansive. And the little human is going, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can. Enough. No, keep receiving, keep receiving. And it is infinite. So I guess today's, transmission sharing is about infinity, the infinite, or the love and fear, and when you're at that 5, it's that threshold where, or that integration and the regulation. So we need the physical body and an understanding of what I call the earth, the soul embodiment, right? And then the heaven, the soul to spirit. And all these aspects need to be in relationship to be a complete, full human, evolved human, right? So, so that's why a lot of the discomfort comes in, because as you start to expand, another word for that, become more conscious, be able to receive more information, data, energy, whatever you want to call it, chi, prana, right? Your system, physical system, then has to negotiate even more information coming in. And that's why the nervous system can get dysregulated. It may already be because of past beliefs and conditioning and trauma and, shock and whatnot. Do you see what I'm saying? So as you continue your journey of, continually receiving, being able to receive more and more, which is in a nutshell what the spiritual journey is, what the human journey is, which is the spiritual journey. There's no separation. Then we start to feel it differently, and then we can get scared and go, when I'm in crowds, I feel so uncomfortable that I can't go into crowds anymore. Or when I touch somebody that I love, I might feel their pain or feel their emotion somehow, whether it's literally or in the field, right? You become more sensitive. And then that frightens you, because it's like, oh, well, so every time I go next to that person, I tell you this, yesterday, my beloved, we sit out for sunset, and I was just touching his neck, he was sort of rubbing his neck, I was touching his neck, and within seconds I had the pain, right? So I knew what was going on for him. The difference is that I knew what was going on for him, and I knew that I was feeling it. So I said, I just contacted it. So those of you that have done intuitive studies, you'll know it's sort of like, okay, so is your pain around here? Because that's where I was feeling it. Yes. Okay. So then I held the point, I did the work for that, and it went away. Now, I joke sometimes and say that's selfish of me, right? Because I didn't want to feel it. So I facilitated that blocked energy, or that stagnant energy, to move through. So then we could sit and watch sunset, and I didn't have to feel his pain, right? It's not about, oh, I'm so sensitive, I feel everybody's pain. It's about, oh, okay, you've got something going on. Can I help? If not, I'll just, zip myself up and watch the sunset. You can do that too. So anyway, I've gone off a little bit, but let's look at what some of you are going through. So struggling a bit with negative thoughts and confidence. I'm scared that I'm on the wrong path. Oh, there is no wrong path, and you showed up here, so I think you got a good idea. I would love some guidance if possible. So struggling with a bit of negative thoughts. So let's go to, so we'll do some real, I guess, basic but profound energy work. So this will be revision for some of you. But on the front of your head, everybody has a, well, I shouldn't say that because some people may not. But anyway, you've got these sort of little lumps here, these bony bits, right? These are the main neurovascular that, you know, sometimes you call them the oh my God points, because you go, oh my God. Right. So when you've got a lot of energy, or you've got a looping thought, so something's happened and you just can't get it out of your mind, right? It's a looping thought. You can hold those two, the main neurovasculars. The main neurovasculars. So you can just put your hand and lay back. Somebody, so if I had you in front of me and I held them, so you can just hold them gently. They're not ones that you massage. You just hold them gently. And the thing is that you will feel the pulse come back, right? So if I was holding them, I might feel the pulse come back in one, so I'll continue to hold them, right? And then I might feel the pulse come into the other, and it'll go from the other. So you hold them until they're both pulsing. Now, the reason why our body loves this regulation, this pulsing. So that's why, you know, tapping and rocking and things like that, our body loves. And our nervous system, or the energetic part of the nervous system, can't fight against those movements. So it's relaxing. But if you hold while you bring, just say you have a negative thought, a particular negative thought. So it might be, I'm going for a job interview, or I have to do something and I'm really scared, right? I have to do this, I'm really scared. So you bring that to mind and hold those points, right? You can lay back in bed, put some pillows under your arms and lay back. Now, eventually, so it just depends how much charge that has on it, right? There's lots of things you can do, but this is one of the ones I was going to show you. So I might as well just, you know, link it in. Depending what that negative thought is about, because we have different points on the head that relate to different emotions and different stages. So if the emotion or a negative thought was about loss or grief or sadness or sorrow, you know, those sorts of things, then we have a point at the top of our head, right? And it's to do with the metal element. Now, metal is to do with, so you don't need to know all this, but some of you might want to. So metal is that the top of the head. So you could just hold the top of the head. So while I'm speaking, hold the top of your head, you know, the very top of the head. So this connects to, you know, there's these 5 elements, right, in traditional ancient Chinese medicine. Traditional Chinese medicine is a little different, but, and it relates to lung and large intestine, right? So lung and large intestine are around, well, large intestine is about holding on or not letting go, right? Where is there something that you need to release? And that's why you can get the runs or be constipated, and the large intestine's involved, because it's about either holding on too much or letting go too much. Do you see? But that can be in any aspect of your life. So holding this, lung also around, you know, these metal aspects are around sadness, loss, grief, right? Grief, not letting go. It's also about the inner structure. So if you're holding this point, and sometimes, like, I kid you not, these points are actually what we would call in kinesiology corrections. So we can do all these protocols, and holding just one of these points can be a correction for all the stuff that's going on. So there is a little protocol, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I have done it in the past. But obviously there's 5 of these. Well, there's actually 6, because there's the main neurovasculars, right? But what you can do is hold. So so if you're having negative thoughts, or you know, I'm not sure what the confidence is about. See, there's different, you know, confidence in being a brave heart, having a brave heart, linking in. So definitely check out when this Spirit Whisperer series comes out, because it's called Vulnerable and Victorious, How Sensitivities Become Your Superpower, right? That's what the series is about. And it goes into all these ways of leaning into your fear and it being your power, right? So when, so I don't have enough information there to, you know, but in general, confidence is like, you know, it's a fear. So you can hold the main neurovasculars, which bring, when we're stressed, the blood goes from the prefrontal cortex to the reptilian brain, or our, you know, survival brain, our old brain, our ancient part of ourselves, and then to the extremities. Why? So that we can run, to our legs, to our arms, right? It takes the blood away from our stomach, because when we're fighting for our life, we don't need to digest. This is why when you lay down, we used to have a joke, like I used to see clients all the time, right? They lay on the massage table. My massage table is right here in front of me. There's no computers on it now. It's my desk. But I would see people live all the time. And they would lay down and would start the process, and their stomachs would start to gurgle and make all these noises. And they'd say, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I'd say, "That's awesome." Why? Because rest and digest. You cannot digest if you're in a stressed state. So it's an indication to me that they're starting to relax and rest so that the movement can happen. Do you understand? So holding these points, it sounds so simple, but holding these points helps bring in a new pattern, right? Where when you're stressed, you're not losing your mind to the stress response. Because literally the blood is coming from the prefrontal, your thinking brain, to the action, the instinct. So what we want to do is be scared, right? I'm scared of stuff all the time. I mean, if I told you my life, you'd be like, wow, she's still showing up, right? Not to brag. It's just to show you that without these ways of knowing, I would not be here. It's just one thing after the other, and that is life. And when we accept that, you see, when we accept that, it's like, okay, well, life is both. It's a circle with a twist. That's life. Circle with a twist, right? So when we accept that, we can navigate it consciously. While we still fight it, we're not fully conscious. You see? That doesn't mean you have to be this perfect sort of robot. You know? I say to Eric, do you love me unconditionally and conditionally? Because I want him to love me conditionally as well, because that's the human experience. He's going to love me. We're going to love each other whether we're together or not. But I want him to, do you see what I'm saying? Unconditional love doesn't necessarily mean you have to be together. So it's a little bit of a joke between us of like, it's both. If it's just one, then there's it's a conditioned relationship. And it's coming from, you know, your fears coming into patterns, behavior that and expectations of the other. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen, because we're human. It's about being conscious when it does happen. So holding the main neurovasculars is a beautiful correction or connection to bring that stress response, you know, just take the hit off whatever it is. So there's a couple of things with these points. So the first one is, if you have a thought that, you know, something's just happened and you've got a lot of energy on it, hold those points, or, you know, however you want to lay back and hold them. Lay on your side and curl into the fetus position and hold the points and allow the blood to come back, allow the capillaries to fill up and start pulsing and bringing that system, right, into alignment. And the second part is using them with one of the other points, like the metal point, which I'm going to just, you know, I think a lot of you will benefit from holding metal. Metal, actually, that goes well with the number 5, interestingly enough. Of course it does. Didn't plan this, but I never do. Holding these together, and it is connected to contracting as well. Contracting, right? So hold those points for at least 5 minutes if you've got something going on, and then bring that thought back and see if the charge is still there. If it is, do it again, or do it regularly through the day until the charge is diminished. Okay. And the metal will help with that, any sort of emotion. Although there's other points that we could do. I mean, if it's anger, you see, fear, frustration, anger would be other points. So we're going to wrap up shortly because I've nearly been going for an hour. So what else is going on? Oops. Press the wrong button. Oh, okay. So fear of failure. So would that be a fear of survival? So a fear of failure, a fear of not achieving something, or a fear of not being good enough. So a fear of failure can get like, it's like going, where is it? And you'll be able to track it. It'll be in your past. It'll be like, yeah, if you go back to your early childhood and start to think about, okay, when was the first time I felt this? Was it in school? So let's do it. Do you want to do a little creative process? Well, it's not really a creative process. It's a, let me get, see if I've got some paper I can scribble. Maybe I'll use this journal. It's a mess. All right, what we're going to do, this is a little exercise, but it's really powerful. Let me just, wasn't prepared for this. This isn't, this is my business journal, but anyway, it's a mess because, you know, So what you're going to do, and it is actually an intuitive, so I do intentional creativity. So our, actually, do you want to see what we were working on yesterday? I can show Insta. So this is one of the paintings we we're working on yesterday. Haven't, it's not finished. It's over months. Actually, I'll show you too if I can, you know. Whoa, everything knock over. All right. So, but it's not about the painting. So that's what we would call the underpainting. And so you're connecting with aspects of what you're working with, and then your the painting is the tool. It's a meditative. So my paintings are like oracles, right? As I paint, I get information. I'm asking questions. Every brush stroke is intentional. It's so what I want to share with you today, based on the questions in, or the statements in the Instagram, is, and I apologize, I can't see all of the Facebook pages at the same time. It's too many things to juggle. So so if you are on other Facebook pages, the best one is probably Rhombus Healing Arts, because I can see that one, and Zoom and Instagram. Otherwise, I've got too many windows open at one time. It gets hard. So let's do this. So all you need is a pen or a pencil. I've got these texters. Let me try and get my phone out of the shot. And what you do is you bring to mind. So you could do, so take a breath. And then you bring the question. And it's a simple question. So it might be something about that fear of failure, or if you could bring it down a little bit more to, you could say, show me. I'm just trying to feel into that, because the fear of failure. Show me where this fear came from, or tell me something about this pattern of behavior, right? But have it clear, like it has to be a clear intention. So something about what you're experiencing. So it might be, if around confidence, show me or tell me or unveil what's stopping me from ... Whatever, however you ask it, you can do it over and over and over again, right? So write it on your paper, write your question. Now, make it as succinct as you can. What I was saying wasn't that succinct. You want to, show me, boom, what you want to know, right? Tell me, boom. Right, so once you've got your question, then you're going to take, actually, I'll show you two ways. The best way to do it, I can't really show you what I'm doing, but I'll do it and then show you. The best way to do it is have two pieces of paper, or one piece of paper, but, sideways, so that you can use two hands. And so write your question at the top, and then you're going to start scribbling, right? Making patterns, right, on the paper. Actually, I'll put my thing down a little bit. You might be able to see a little bit. But the importance is you're crossing over. Oh, what? The 5? What? The crossover? Oh, I couldn't have made this up if I tried. Thank you. Thank you, beloved. You see, I love how it all just comes together, right? Now, I know you're listening to me, but you would do that. So just take a moment. I'm going to be quiet. Take a moment, say your question and then scribble and listen. And it'll be the first thing that comes in. And you may not hear it, you may feel it or sense it or just get a knowing. So do that. Okay. So it's quick. And what tends to happen is that people get their answer and they go, oh, that can't be it. It's too simple. Or it's one word. Usually it's just one word or one. So if you don't hear words or see words, some of you get a knowing. So whatever sensory style you have, go with it. It doesn't matter, but you will get something if you continue to practice that. So how did you go? Did you get something? Going to do it? Oh, you haven't done it? It's profound. It's like, I mean, all of this stuff is so simple. And I think that's why people don't do it. It's just so simple. Profound information you get through. So that process, obviously crossing over the midpoint, is, to do with the brain, but also energetics, right? So there's all sorts of ways to do that, but it's such a simple thing. If you're really stuck on something and you don't know how to get to energy test or to, drop into aspects of the self, like, those of you that know the wisdom point, drop into the wisdom point, But if you don't know anything like that, this is profound, especially when you're really, so those of you that are going through stuff, this, like, I was going to say, so many people are going through so much. I mean, human beings are always going through so much. There's always this happening. Right? So no worries. Yeah. Give it a go later and let me know how you went, or if you've got any questions after it. But at my most difficult times, creativity and these types of, I have these little books. I wish I could show you. I wasn't set up for this, but, I've got journals sort of everywhere, but I carry little journals around with me. And if ever I, am stuck or, have a heartache or whatever, right? Or someone's passing away or has passed away or is, right? That, heart-wrenching stuff. I do that process, but because I've done it so long, sometimes they turn into little sort of masterpieces. They're awesome. They're not necessarily pretty, but they're awesome because they, and the energy from them, because it's an alchemical process. So I think today, because I'm even watching my movements, right? Today is about this crossing over, this threshold, this moving of, I guess if you're feeling fear, you're feeling trepidation, or you're feeling vulnerable, or you're feeling fragile, or, that knowing that you can shift and move out of that, and you're not technically moving out of it because you're all of it all the time, but you can consciously choose how to move the energy, right? If you were only one side of that, you'd be continually open. And I say it's like just having an in-breath. Eventually, you're going to die if you're not able to Do you know what I mean? And the same with an out breath. Like if you're just exhaling, you need both inhale and exhale. You need both, whether we like it or not. You might like the inhale better than the exhale or vice versa. It's a matter of being conscious about the whole experience, the whole human experience, and how we're conscious that it exists, and then how we navigate that, how we process it, how we integrate it, how we're conscious of it, how we accept it. Everything we do in life really is to make our life acceptable, because our life is fear. It's being here is the drop, right? So everything here is fear. Earth experience is fear. It's not, it's the earth, the drop, this triangle. Heaven is this one, the rise, the light, the dark. We live in the dark, the fear, the earth experience. So when we accept that, and we're the bridge, we can, through our system, through our humanness, bridge heaven and earth and become that threshold for all of it, for all of it. And then we can be peaceful in our speech, in our action, in our how we are in the world. But peace doesn't negate the dark. It's part of it. So, all right. How you feeling? It's so awesome. It's not what I was going to share at all, but but it feels good to me. All right. Oh, awesome, awesome. So I'm just reading the chat. So try that little intentional process and see how you go. And also those points, I only showed you a couple, but sometimes, it's just, you only need a couple. It's like, well, Cynthia was showing this one the other day. I wonder if I just hold that. Or, if you're really having a lot of heartache, it's, hold this point. And you can use like 3-finger notch, or, that's my, I just feel a lot. So I feel like it's too pointy when I do this, but some people like it. I like to just put my fingertips yeah. So, all righty. Well, thank you for joining us, and, stay tuned. Let me know how you went with any of that information, or if you have any questions. I'm open to listening and seeing how you went. I will let you know again, like by the end of the week, actually early next week, I will launch the next program, the free series, so that you can at least get on that. And yeah, just scanning to see if I've missed anything, but I think that's all for now. So have a breath and know that you're exactly where you need to be. Stay in the step that you're in, one step at a time. And sometimes if that one step seems like it's too much, just stand. Stand, breathe, enjoy that you're love and fear. And now you know about the center, the crossover. All right, much love, and I'll see you next week, if not